everyone, this is Don Smith, and today I'd like to talk to you about a topic that's been around photography forever, and that's image manipulation. Now, before we start talking about it, I want to stress that I'm not talking about crafting an image from a raw file. That's no difference than if we, in the darkroom days when we used to take a negative in and process a print and use different graded filters or grades of paper or bleaching techniques, etc. What I'm talking about is actually manipulating the image. And back in the film days, we didn't have a whole lot of options. We could do some double exposures to come up with some kind of cool techniques. There were things called slide sandwiches. The Orton technique was perfected out of that. Then we got into using graduated neutral density filters, but that was more to kind of control the contrast of the light. But today's video, I want to take it way beyond that. And in the digital realm, we're now in an era where it's really easy to do. You know, I started back my digital journey in 2002 with Photoshop and books that were very thick, about the thickness of a Bible back then. And trying to understand that program took a PhD and maybe a couple of PhDs. Well, fast forward to nowadays, and with artificial intelligence and the terrific sensors that are out on the market, we can not only capture a broader range of tones and colors, but we can do things to our images once we come into the software programs that really took some serious knowledge in masking and selection techniques. And that's what I want to share with you today, especially with a program called Luminar 4. We're going to take a look at two topics today: sky replacement, and then in the latest version of Luminar 4 that just was released a couple of weeks ago, version 4.2, we're going to take a look at sky object placement. So it's kind of a fun video. We are all sort of homebound right now, unfortunately, with this virus. And it might give you some new ideas and some fun techniques and tips. So let's get at it. Okay, so let's start first of all with basic sky replacement. Now, in the past, this has been something that has not been easy, especially if you had a scene like this. This is shot or captured, excuse me, from the east side of Pinnacles National Park, looking up at the high peaks. And in the past, I would come in here and I would probably add my quick selection tool, and I would start to draw a selection along the top here, which grabs on to all the talus peaks. But as you can see, when I start to want to work up and hit the fine details of trying to select these trees, this was always a little bit of a tough go because it would select everything, as you can see here, and it wouldn't select what was behind it, which was the sky. So those days are behind us now. And if we wanted to replace a sky, such as a boring sky like this, I was actually awaiting a nighttime scene. So I had captured this scene prior to the stars coming out. And I did a whole video on doing some night photography up at Pinnacles National Park. Okay, so now we are in version 4.2 of Luminar. And if you can see over here on the right-hand side, we basically have four palettes: Essential, Creative, Portrait, and Pro. And where we're going to be working today is going to be in the Creative palette. So AI sky replacement actually made it into Luminar 4.0, and then augmented sky is what is new, that's just come out in the last 2 weeks. So let's just start, for those of you that haven't seen this, and I know a lot of you have, with a basic sky replacement. And when you purchase Luminar, you will get these preloaded skies. So I'm just going to come here and click on a dramatic sunset, just to give you an idea of how good this is. Now, you can see it hasn't filled in everywhere here. A lot of times that has to do with the horizontal placement. You can see as I raise up, there is actually the bottom of the image I'm trying to put in behind the trees. But as I start to lower that down, And then I'm going to actually bring up sky global. You start to see all the sky behind these trees, and up in here fill in really nicely. This is where a lot of sky replacements I've seen on the web are looking really bad, because this one actually works because we are shooting towards the setting sun. Let's go into another one here. You have to know where your light is coming, is where I'm going with this. If this was a sunrise shot, then this would be completely opposite, and the sky would be coming in from behind. Let's go in and try something else. Let's say we wanted to do a bright blue sky here. Oh, that's lovely with the jet contrail. Okay, well, we'll try another one. Let's go into here, blue sky number 1. There we go. And now we just, you see how nicely this just filled in right behind the trees and up in here. If you're finding any gaps, you can come in here. There's this little slider that says close gaps. There's a little bit of local adjustment on the sky. Usually I find if I just move around my horizontal positioning, I'm in good shape. I can also take the sky and I can defocus it. This one, oops, excuse me, I'm grabbing the wrong slider, that's why. So there we go. Now I can defocus the sky. That doesn't really look good because this is shot at f11, f16, so everything we would expect it to be sharp. You can play around with atmospheric haze, bring a little bit more realism to the scene. The sky temperature, you can warm it, cool it. So you can kind of play to your heart's content. You can even come in here and change the exposure of the sky. So that's all pretty cool stuff. Okay, well then came along, let's get out of here. And oh, by the way, before I move along, with sky replacement, as with this next one I'm going to show you, which is going to be object placement in the sky, you can actually go out in sky replacement and you can use any of the skies that you may have shot. It just has to be in a JPEG format, and so you can bring in skies yourself. Okay, let's come up to another one here, and this is where 4.2 came in a couple of weeks ago, as I was telling you. And this is really kind of crazy what they've started to add here. Instead of, it still allows you to replace your skies. So let's come over here to our creative palette. And there's your sky replacement as in the past. But now they've added artificial intelligence augmented sky. And I'm just going to go in and let's say here I want to choose a bunch of birds to put into the scene. So bang, there we go. We've got some birds. You can take this, you can stretch it if you would like. And what's kind of cool about this really is it's object aware. So it sort of knows where these trees are and it keeps the birds behind the trees. Let's show you another example here. Let's come back up here. This one's really crazy. Let's go to giraffe 1. Okay. I'm going to place the object here. I can move this giraffe anywhere in the scene. Look at as I'm moving it behind the tree, how it's object aware that there is a tree back there. Yeah, we're having a little problems with the clouds, but you can adjust the mask. You can paint in and out. You can also take this object and you can blow it up. You can shrink it down. You can do anything basically you want with it. You can rotate it. So here I thought I was in California and suddenly, you know, we're in Africa. Okay, so you may be asking at this point, well, that's kind of cool, you know, and really this is just meant to have fun. This is all of this is about. This would not encompass any of my serious work by any means, but it's just kind of fun to see where the software is going and what you can do nowadays. So let's say I wanted to add a maybe some birds or a moon to the shot. Well, you've already seen if I go back and I change, it's just going to change to whatever I change it to. There's some fireworks, okay? So it takes our giraffe away. So there's my giraffe again. I'm going to move him over here. All right, place him out of the way. So when I come back here, I hit place object. Now I'm going to come up here to my layers palette and click on this little plus button. Come down here to create new stamped layer. And what it's going to do, it's going to take this object we've already placed and it's going to merge it into this shot as if it's one scene. And that's what's going to allow us to go back in and add multiple objects. Now, I don't know if upcoming versions of Luminar will allow us just to add objects on the fly. We'll have to wait and see. Right now, this is the workaround if you want to go up and add in another object. So we come back here to our creative. Let's see, let's go to birds 1 here. And suddenly there's my birds again. Let me see if I go to birds number 2. Yeah, I even get bigger birds. I can, shrink those down. And once again, look how it's object aware back here on these trees, and it's even object aware pretty much on that giraffe. So it's kind of cool stuff that they're giving us. Again, it's all for fun. This is, if you were ever a digital compositor back in the day, you know how difficult all this was to do in just layers and stacks on Photoshop. And we're simply doing this nowadays with just one click and a slider, basically, and there you go. I can place the object. I do have some mask refining back in here that I can work on. Again, you have a defocus here, so I can take the birds and put them out of focus or a nice sharp focus. I can relight the scene a little bit if I would like. And just, you can play around there. I've made the birds a little bit darker, a little bit lighter. So you can do that. You can warm your object up, cool it down. That's not really going to work with these birds. But you're getting the idea. Okay, so let's cancel out of this. And let's try another shot here. This one's kind of cool. So I'm going to go back in and we're going to reopen Luminar 4. And this time I'm going to place a couple of objects in the sky that, we may not think about adding. But this was a shot I just did this past week. We've had some beautiful storm light here in California, especially in Central California, out near the Monterey Bay where I live. And so I was going out in the evenings and just capturing this beautiful storm light, a lot of it right from my car. There was nobody else around, so I wasn't worried about my social distancing or staying away. There probably wasn't another human within miles of me. So let's go back into Augmented Sky. This was a shot that I did probably about a half hour before sunset. And I'm going to go to Object Selection this time, and let's see if we add a bolt of lightning. Bang! How does that look? Okay, so I'm going to place my object. I can blow that up. I can move that down. And again, look, it's object aware. This isn't something that we're going to do and place on a foreground. This has to be created within the sky. So that's, something we can play around with there and add a bolt of lightning. Let's go back. I think they give you one with multiple lightning. Yeah, they do. And again, we can blow this up. We can center it around. I think of all the times I've gone out with Gary Hart for years. In August, we'd go shoot the monsoon season. And, this isn't going to replace the excitement, believe me, of shooting real live lightning. By no means is this going to do it. But, where we're all stuck indoors nowadays, it's kind of fun just to play around with this. So you can see I can stretch it, I can move it, I can rotate it, do basically anything I want with this lightning. Okay, so let's cancel out of this shot. And I'm going to do one more here. I'm going to come up into this one. And again, let's go back into Luminar 4. This is just this quirky, if you've been following my Facebook posts, I actually converted this shot to a black and white earlier this week. I really like it. This is just a valley oak, and we've got a lot of these cool looking oaks near the area. This is probably about a 15-20 minute drive to where I live that I can get out, and when the light's right, when these storms are breaking and we get that low sweeping light, This is why I really don't want to mess with any of the images that I'm doing, but it's kind of fun, once again, to come in here and just play. And let's go and take our augmented sky. And one of the cool things, similar to the to sky replacement, where I could shoot my own skies and add them in, I can do the same thing here. I've discovered. I just went out and started playing yesterday. I'm going to take this moonshot. I went on the web and I just started typing in royalty-free moonshots. And I ended up landing on NASA's site. And what I'm finding is, you can see now, that's, if I move it out over here, if I move it behind the tree, this doesn't give me quite the look I'm going for. We would never see a moon through those dark clouds to begin with, but we're just digital compositing here. We're just kind of having a lot of fun. So what I found is that if you can find something that has a black background to it, and look at that when I bring it into the trees, it still is pretty much object aware, which is very cool. I don't know how these guys do this. I'm not a software engineer. So you can actually go out on the web, is the point I'm trying to make, and you can find images to bring in. So JPEGs with a black background, any type of moonshot, that works. Let's try something here, and this is just going to be the first time. I don't think this is going to work. I'm going to take a Milky Way, and let's just put the Milky Way in there. And I'm going to place object. Well, let's do that, and we'll actually stretch it up. Now that's really looking weird. You'd never shoot that because you got a daylight lit scene with a nighttime behind it. But again, I'm just trying to show you the possibilities of where we're going with all this stuff. Let's go back into maybe adding some birds this time. Okay. Now that could look real, you know. So here's the thing, gang, and I'm going to place that, and we'll kind of end it on this note. We have entered a stage of photography in our digital realm where we're going to become not only digital creators out in the field, but we're able to come back and very easily now to the masses, be able to take something like this and add birds to a scene that were never there. This is only going to get better and more efficient as we move along. So the big question to me is, how do I represent this work? And the answer is very simple to me. If I am going to replace a sky or add an object to the sky that wasn't there, I'm going to divulge it. No ifs, ands, or buts. I was brought up in the film era. I was brought up in the journalism era, where if you lie with your photos, you could lie with your copy. So I don't want to lie to my viewers. What I really want my viewers to see and experience is what I saw and experienced when I was out capturing the scene. And so that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be birds in the shot. This is what I saw when I went out. Having said that, we are at that point where we can do this. We can digitally composite pretty easily, change out a sky pretty easily. I just wanted to show you where the technology is at in case you haven't played with this program. So if you would like to get a copy of this, my code is up on the screen, and you'll get 10% off. And I'm also adding Topaz and On1. My code's there because they're coming out with some really great artificial intelligence stuff also. Topaz, especially in the denoise and the sharpening realm, is just off the charts good and getting better by the moment as we go along. So all of this stuff is just going to keep getting better. It's going to keep allowing us to be more creative and have a lot of fun. How you want to present your images, as far as did I digitally manipulate them or not, is going to be a question each and every one of you is going to have to answer. I already told you my answer. It's pretty simple. I'm sticking with that. And so that's it. I think just, continue to shoot, continue to create. If you're feeling housebound, this may give you some options to really kind of play with some older images of yours and just see what you can come up with and have a whole lot of fun. So that's about it. Luminar 4.2. Use my code and just enjoy your creations. And so until next time, all of you, please take care and stay safe and practice your social distancing.